Hello, hello, hello. My name is NicholassRivas. If you're against taxation, you're pro-death. That's the title of the video. If YouTube doesn't murder me for saying the word death, um, basically, I saw someone say this, and I just couldn't have said it better. If you're against taxation, you are pro-death. In my mind, I look at people and think if you are against our social safety nets, you are basically just going to allow people to die. It's a very bold claim, but it's not, foundless. It or baseless. It's a truth. If we don't have social safety nets, we've seen this where states got social safety nets, Medicare, Medicaid, all these things, and we then see a decline in health and the safety of our American people. I'm not saying anything controversial, and if anything, I'm probably saying the most mundane, FDR-esque policy is that the more we give to the people and less so to corporations. Obviously, the most hippy dippy thing I could propose. It both works economically. We have less death. We have more people in the workforce. Like, I'm trying to think this in every in every position I can think of. So when I say this, I'm not trying to be this edgy lefty. I'm being truthful. Is that you take away our social safety nets, you endanger the lives of Americans, and in turn, in direct consequence, you can say that you harm Americans when you are against any taxation, or all the main taxations we need in our world. And let me divulge into it more. I'm not saying if every person in the world every tax is great, every person getting taxed is awesome. It's more of like a top marginal tax rate, or just the putting in that we already do now. Like the idea that people don't want any tax is who I'm attacking. It's not this imaginary person that I'm making an argument with. I know plenty of people in my life who argue that taxation is theft, that it's ruining our society, and I look at them with a bit of disgust because we need taxation to fund our firemen, our police. I don't want to live in a world where there's a privatized police force. Like, get that shit out of here. And that in turn could be another reason of the many to say that if you don't want taxation in our community and put it in our togetherness, we all put as a community the money towards our fire, police, then you are pro-death. That's just what's going to happen if we ever have like a privatization of police forces. If we take away the Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security and all these things that we all put in together, that we eventually we'll use for ourselves. Like, I think people are so anti-Social Security, and that pisses me off because it's like the older people in our generation or the older people in our world are the ones who put in the work, and they can reap the benefits. Let them relax. They don't need to be working till the age of 90. And even if they don't have the nice cushy paying job with a 401k, they deserve to live a comfortable life because they put in. They help form our society. Why is that such a hard thing for people to grasp? I think people are so anti-tax that they've become brain rotted with the idea that any tax is bad. And I will concede and say not all taxes are great, but I think the society we live in right now is a pretty healthy society because of taxation. So I say boldly, if you're against taxation, you are pro-death. And if you want to revamp our systems, if you have critiques of where we put the money in, I'm not trying to disregard that. But I know people, and they are a loud group if maybe a minority. But I know people who say that they are just against any tax, and yet they want to have kind of the cake and eat it too world, where I have people who use Social Security, or they've been on welfare, and they're anti-tax. Like, bro, where do you think it comes from? I honestly take it as just, okay, they're uneducated. They don't understand the importance. We've become cushy within our world. I know in a world before Social Security, I can imagine people not really knowing a world before that, right? Not to say I do. I'm just a youngin from the 90s, but it's just weird to hear people not know the importance of these great systems we have. I'm not going to defend the IRS and say it's the greatest thing ever, but we need an IRS. I'm not going to say that our system is perfect, but it's good to have people in welfare and save them rather than them just die off and we have a society of, I don't know, rich folks. Like it's just, if you think you're part of the 1%, you're not. You know, they don't care about you. You'll be the first on the chopping block, right after the homeless people. You know, like they're not gonna, these Mark Zuckerbergs and the people who are antitrust, or people antitrust laws. They don't care about us little folk. You know, and it kills me to see people so defending of the likes of these quadrillionaires, you know, these trillionaires who will never partake in your, they're the ones who perpetuate these stories, you know, that the taxation is theft and privatization is great. You know, I definitely have arguments for privatization in many of the realms we live in, but not all. I'm a man who loves and cares for his taxations. I respect our institutions, and sorry for me being such a Boy Scout. It is what it is, and it's how I feel. But I also have economical backings to prove that it's beneficial to our society. So yeah, suck it, you weirdo anti-tax people. Like, come on. I don't know how you think any of this is going to function accordingly. But hey, you know, I want to hear that. That's why I put it out there. If my claim is so bold, prove me wrong. I have proof after proof that shows that when there is a lack of, you know, communal help, welfare, social security, food banks, people end up dying. People end up having miserable lives on the best day. On the worst day, they die. And I don't want to live in a world where any American dies, where we could have fixed that. We could have stopped that. I would consider myself to be the most patriotic motherfucker in this goddamn world because I care about my Americans from left to right. I don't give a shit. If they want to reap the welfare system, let them. Because I think most people who are on it probably don't want to be on it. And they're not taking pride with, I'm on it, woohoo. No, like there's this painting that people try to put on Americans to be like, oh, you just don't want to work. And I work, so I deserve all these things. Like, no, nobody deserves anything. If someone wants to be a moocher, let them, because 9 out of 10 people don't want to be in that position. I don't know anybody, and this is anecdotal, but I can also prove this also. I don't even know why I'm trying to take away my point, because I can prove that the unemployment rate alone is like 2%, right? 2%. I mean, I don't know anything that's that low. Americans and people in general want to benefit. They want to give back to our world. And honestly, I think a big key factor is unemployment. You just can't live off of it, you know? So yeah, I can't see a world where people don't want to work. And again, anecdotal for my case, I don't know anybody in my personal life that doesn't want to work. So it's all this fake Republican propaganda that makes people say like, oh, this generation doesn't want to work anymore. Like, shut up. You are making these fake characters up in your head. Nobody in this world wants to be a moocher, and if they do, they're the rare case. Most people want to work. Most people have to work. So even try it. Like try to be a moocher in society. You're gonna have a miserable life. They paint this picture. When I say they, it's these like rich assholes who love their corporation welfare but not the people welfare. PPP loans and tax breaks for, you know, like big banks and stuff, and subsidies. They'll defend those, you know, till night and day. But you know, the case of like a moocher, they make nothing. They barely live. They live in like the squalors of life and the miserable, trailer parks and the caricatures of a terrible society. That's who lives in those moocher societies, and you think that's a good life? Like, come on, guy, come on, let's be real here. You're making up a villain in your head, and there's such a small group of people. Like, I remember my friend being mad. They were saying like, ugh, these immigrants are ruining our country and they're taking away, and I showed them that in a multitude of articles that prove that they typically add to the GDP. Immigration is typically a healthy thing for our society, but they were just on and on about like, oh goodness, they are ruining our society. Like, okay, yeah, here's some logical statistics breaking down the benefits of a healthy migration. But I concede and say, yeah, there's probably people who do leech and go through the system inappropriately or use the system as they not should, right? Illegal immigrants or undocumented people mooching the system. I'm sure that is the case, but you can't even you can't even prove that it's that big of a detriment relative to where I can prove that corporation welfare, such as the taxation, gutting the de-taxation of the Trump era, where you had like the estate tax and the cuts to the big banks from the Obama era. You see a world where those cost so much more money than some random immigrant. So if you think that immigrants are that bad, or that the moochers and the taxations that we have to put up with is so bad, you should also be angry at the big corporate taxes, or big corporate welfare. But they don't. Usually when I bring that up, they go, oh, the homeless people are even worse than those people. Like they don't realize how much Elon Musk hasn't paid versus us regular middle class folk. Like we should be angry at the higher echelon people, because they're abusing us, they're using us, and they're pointing at each other, or they're pointing at us to say, this guy's taking your money. So that's where I stand and disgust and try to fight all this and combat the idiotic society that we've built upon, or we were built upon for us, you know. So again, if you have better points, please tell me. But I think right now I'm spitting facts. So yeah, it is what it is. I'll kind of end the video here, because I don't know what to do against the gunship. I'm not that consistent as a Call of Duty player. Forgive me. So yeah, it is what it is. Yabba dabba doo. New videos every other day. Bye.
Coming back from that. All your asses back home, CIA.
Fall back to execute.